Hello, I'm Michael Redmond, professional 9-dan Go player. In this video, I'm going to do a commentary for the Chunlan Cup semifinal played on January 20th, 2021. And the players in this game were KJ and Tang Weixing, both Chinese players. And the Komi was 7.5 points. I'll just go into it. This was the semifinals. I think KJ is probably the most famous player in the four, so maybe he was a kind of a favorite. In this game, black starts with a 3-4 point. The direct 3-3 point is so popular nowadays that people are playing the 3-4 point more to avoid that. So it's a pretty normal, it's just an opening that could have been played even before AIs. This is a pretty standard way to play for both players, including black's corner enclosure here. Black could have played on the other side too, like for instance, this one would also be a big move. It's really hard to say which is better, I have seen players play something like this. Katago at least was giving the left side of the board a better score. For instance, that variation I was showing you with black playing here. For human players, even top pros, it probably doesn't really matter at this point. And here, yes, this is white could have played either approach move. This one also works. Nowadays, we see a lot more of the low approach move. So this is okay, and black plays the 3-3 point. When in doubt, you just jump into the 3-3 point. It's so popular. Although I joke about it, I have played the 3-3 point also. So this game was played just a few days ago for me when I'm taking this video. And I did actually a live broadcast of the quarterfinals just 2 days before that. And unfortunately, my schedule didn't allow me to do this one live. In the quarterfinals, it was one of my first live broadcasts. I still haven't really completely figured it out. And so various happenings did occur, like the camera died midstream. And I didn't really know how to capture the chat, so I did it in a bit of a clumsy way and stuff like that. There are a number of issues that I think I've figured them out. So the live broadcasts will continue, and I'm hoping that they'll be getting better. People seem to like it anyway. I think it was fairly successful as a live. So we have this joseki happening in the lower right corner here. And white plays one hane here. Almost always black will answer that. And white's next move is where white has a choice of playing the cut, which was played in the game. White actually could have played the double hane too. This is another way that white can play. In this case, black might just cut here and cut here. But fortunately for white, the ladder does favor white. So this is perfectly playable also. White has a choice of playing here or playing once here maybe and taking in the ladder. Or there's a kind of a tricky move of cutting here at this timing, which also works in its own way. There's various choices that white has. In the game, white cuts. Now against this, also black has a number of choices. The game move was a bit unusual, cutting here on the fourth line before taking the one stone. There was a very unusual move. So to show you some more normal, what I would call normal variations, black otherwise would have the choice of playing to capture the one stone or to capture this stone. So if black plays this way, the drawback for black is that the ladder favors white. So if black plays here, white will take it in the ladder. And if black plays this way, black can block the ladder, and this will lead to a huge fight here, in which both players are going to be continuing to fight in the center. Maybe something like this might happen, in which case and white would have an advantage in the local fight, and I'm not sure whether black would continue locally in this case. So locally, it looks like it's a fight that white can win. When the ladder is bad for black, and I'm talking about this ladder. When this ladder is bad for black, this is usually okay for white. Even though black might have some kind of a ladder breaking move there, it's usually good for white to get this position where white has captured in a ladder. Otherwise, black could have played here, and if black takes the one stone, white will connect. This also gives white a strong position on the outside. In the game, black cut first, and then took. So there is the question of what happens if black takes first and then cuts, which is actually the normal order of moves. And if white plays here, black can extend, and white has to choose between playing on the lower side or playing on the right side. If white plays on the right side, black can play something on the lower side. This kind of variation will follow, after which black has a number of choices. Black could continue fighting in the center. Black could play like this and probably sacrifice, or maybe not, maybe surrounding the lower side first and then fighting in the center. Or black could play something like this, which is also a very important point. It's a point that black really wants to get to at some point, and jump out here and put more focus on the left side of the board, which would be a more active way of playing. Now the question comes in what happens. I think what black was afraid of when we saw black playing the cut first and then taking here. If white plays here, this is going to become the same variation. And to show you what happens if white plays on this side, black's probably going to play something towards locally, let's take that back and say locally that black might play this exchange, which is kind of an AI joseki here, where black will add one more stone to these stones in the center, and the lower side has become really important, so white will probably play a stone here, and black will get to play the next move on the right side after all. So maybe something like, in this case, it would be something like this, yes. In any case, I think that extending here in the center gives black some potential to attack locally. So that's what black's idea is when black cut first and then took here, and in the game actually white just took in a ladder. So to talk about black playing this move first and then cutting, this is something that it might seem a bit complicated, but it really did bother me, because if white connects here, then black does get this offensive setup here, which seems to look good for black. And it turns out that Katago was suggesting that white would capture the one stone. And black will want to play an Atari here, in which case that was an attempt to make co-threats. And when black goes down at 7 at the 3-3 point, white does not have any forceful co-threats in that position. So white continues this way and uses this co-threat in the lower left. And the ko becomes relatively easy for white when this happens, because white can afford to lose the ko. And it is a dangerous ko for both sides still. But white can probably afford to sacrifice those stones. Although for the time being, it's still a direct ko almost. If white fills that ko, white will capture the black group in the corner. And so Katago was showing me this variation where white sacrifices that area on the right side and is getting a lot of potential in other parts of the board. I found this very interesting, and I like this variation. So that was what KJ was worried about when he played this cut first before capturing here. And his choice of joseki here, where I would have expected this one, and Katago says that this is good for white when white takes the one stone, was something that I didn't understand until I researched it. So back to the game. So black cuts here and white takes in the ladder. And the fact that white did not have time to play this, but black would extend in the center if white did that, is a potential advantage for black, because at some point black will be able to crawl here to get some extra territory. But black started with a ladder breaking move. Anyone following my videos might remember that I showed a video that I played against Shibano Ryutaro, in which I did play this attachment and my opponent did extend. So this is a move that is worth considering, but in this case black will be able to extend here, and the ladder now favors black. The ladder is going to come in this direction and it's going to curl around like this, and the black stones will connect up to that black stone there, just to give you a little image of how it ends. And so the ladder is not going to work for white. Black's going to escape. It's a bit more complicated when white does something like this. This would, for the time being, it keeps the ladder good for white, and stuff like this could happen. It could get very, very exciting. I'll just leave this diagram, this variation, I'll leave it here. In the game, white covered here, and this pretty much captures that black stone. That said, black did try to escape, but with this, black will not be able to escape successfully here. If black continues locally, in the game black played here, if black continues locally, for the time being, if black fills this liberty, it's going to be a ladder. So that's simple enough. But if black just pushes out, then white will play here. And the problem here for black, basically, is that black is not going to escape with those 4 stones without giving white, now let's use a white stone instead, without giving white this capture here, which will threaten to kill the corner. So to take that one move at a time, for instance, black could play here and escape towards the side, but this is bad news for the corner. This is going to be a ko. In this case, black would make it a ko like this. It's better for white not to fight the ko, because there's no way for black to finish this position with just one move. White did not have an advantage in ko threats yet, so it's better for white just to leave it. And this is clearly a success for white. It's going to take black 2 more moves locally. If white at some point wins the ko, it's going to be very painful for black locally. So this was just a very bad variation for black. So in the game, black leaves it at this point. Black did establish some potential there, with this move being forcing, and in some cases this move also. Either of these moves will be forcing towards white there. And so, for instance, black could play this sequence, and white would probably want to play here now, with the corner reinforced. Or if white at some point connects here, black will be able to take here, and again, this will be forcing white to add a stone there in the center. So black has various local forcing moves that were basically established by moving out just once here. It made one of those 2 moves more forceful. So black switches to the upper side. This is reasonable. And invades. This was from the beginning of the game, after something like 5 or 6 moves each. Even when white had only just played this move, this invasion was already something that would very much interest me. It was an important point. And so while KJ, he started with the invasion in the lower right, both players must have been focusing on the potential of that invasion on the left also. It's a very, you might say it's a hot spot. It's an important point that both players were interested in. And white played here, which seems a reasonable move, but this was actually the point where the score went bad for white, and in a way that I find makes sense, because this was a bit of a slack move, and it was an opportunity for white to play more forcefully, cutting once. For the time being, of course, the ladder will favor white, and to play here. With this move, already white has a strong shape on the left side. This is just hitting the vital point in black's shape, and it means that black will not be able to attack white successfully in this area. For instance, black might play here. White just plays the Atari from the corner. Black still has a pretty lousy shape. It means that black will not be able to kill white locally. So it would be a more active way of to play and to strengthen white on the left side. The fact is, this move, exchanging that with black's move there on the third line, that black's move is putting a lot of pressure on white in the lower left corner. Black has profited there. While white's jump, it was a bit of a slow move, a bit slack. So this is where the score goes up for KJ in the computer analysis. And white played here, but you can see it's the same position, only black has better shape than before. It's still a weak shape, but it's a lot better than without that wasted stone. So the way white executed the attack here was not perfect. And white switches to the lower side. I'm not surprised that Katako did not like this move, because computers just have a tendency not to like extensions toward the side like this. So the suggested move that I saw was this one, which is also an important move. For instance, if black plays away, white does have the peep here, and covering here gives white a very nice shape there on the left, and black has a very bad shape there. So it does have a nice follow-up move that makes it worthwhile playing. In the game, white plays here, and black plays here, and now white has to settle that group on the left. This gives white a potential ko at any point if white plays here. White can make a ko in the corner. So playing this exchange in this timing was probably well timed. And white is now strengthening that white group on the left. This white group here, it needs to be strengthened a little bit. Before white would like to be able to continue attacking black in the upper left, but white has to protect first, basically. And this cutting once here, interesting move. I don't fully understand that move, but it seems to be okay. The timing there. And this move, it's the natural shape, putting a lot of pressure on white on the lower side, and black has moved out into the center. It's very important point, basically. The difference between playing here and not playing there and allowing white to play something like this, that would be a huge difference there. So white starts the ko in the corner and uses this ko thread. But this is still looking good for black. The point is that if black had answered this, white would have had endless ko threads there in the upper right corner. So it would have been pretty hopeless for black to hope to win this ko. So I guess it makes sense that black finished the ko. This is a pretty big territory there in the lower right and lower left, I mean. It's about 30 points, I guess. So white takes the upper right corner, and black extends here and adds a stone to it. This is a very solid shape with about 10 points now. So that's 30, 40, 50. Black has something like 50 points. And the game is going well for KJ at this point. Black plays once here. And black this is a huge move. But this is where black apparently went wrong. This is a huge move, but it allowed white the chance to cut here. So if black had simply played something like this to prevent white from cutting, and so just to show what I mean here, if white plays this way, there's no way for white to save those two stones. They're dead already. Like if white plays here, it's just hopeless. So while it looks like there's some space there, it's just completely hopeless for white to save those two stones. They can't escape. So the fact that white cannot cut there means that we go back to this point. This is not only erasing the center, but it's getting rid of that cut there, the cut at this point, and apparently good enough. This is close enough to be difficult for me to calculate the score, but just from the flow of the game, I would agree that it looks like it's going to be good for black. In the game, black grabs some more territory and sort of invites white to attack. This is probably, I'd say it's KJ's style. It's typical of him, and he's confident that he can handle a weak group. And white got this chance to attack, so it's white should be happy. And so it was like this. The reason that this works actually is that black does have a threat here. So for instance, if this were to happen, then black would be able to push in here, and this is an Atari. If white answers it, then black will capture the 2 stones on the side. So this was what black was threatening to do if white had surrounded those black stones on the upper side. And thus white jumps out here. So black plays here, and white takes. So this gets rid of that potential that I was showing you on the upper side, and black has to reinforce. The threat behind this move is to play a hane here, which would capture the 2 white stones. And white is going to focus on an attack on the center, with hopes to make some territory here in the center, if possible. Black connects underneath. And white slides here, making a dead group. So this is sort of interesting tactic that white has employed here. Locally, it's just an overplay. Locally, it's an overplay. White is trying to get some extra thickness, and ultimately white's aim will be to set up an attack against that black group on the upper side, which the object would be maybe to kill it. That would be ideal, of course, but of course, with an opponent playing, you usually expect that your opponent's going to avoid that. And so the idea would be to attack black and use that attack to make a big territory, probably in the center of the board, and get some profit out of it. In professional games, an attack usually has an idea like that. It's usually the idea is to get some profit rather than to actually kill the group. That would be the last resort. So black covers here. There's no escape for white, but white pushes and cuts here. White is going to use these stones to create some potential there. Black is winning the race to capture. So white just left it. So it was just this extra little wall here that white got. And since black will probably have to put a stone or 2 in later in the game, it's not as if white really lost any territory. White maybe got a bit of extra thickness towards the center. And so here they're fighting on the upper side. White peeps here. With this peep, these white stones are fairly strong. Like they have forcing moves on a forcing move here on this side, and also the white corner group in the upper left is very strong. So it's already okay. So black connecting here will not necessarily be forcing. And KJ does not play it yet. Let's see, black played here and here. Up to this point, actually, the computer analysis gives black a very good score. And so it should be a winning game. But this attachment here, and black's connecting on the second line, which was not a forcing move. These 2 moves are what seem to be the losing moves. So my focus here will be on what black should have done. Basically, in the way I see it, black got into a lot of trouble in the center of the board, and that black group could have died. Let's just show a few more moves here. In this position where it's completely cut off from the right side, and the whole center is filled with a lot of white walls. It makes it difficult for black to make two eyes there. Black has a potential eye on the upper side, but no other eye. So it's very dangerous. And being a strong fighter, I'm sure KJ thought he could handle it. But it was probably an overplay. And it seemed to be the losing move. So starting with this move, instead of attaching here, it would have been better for black to play the diagonal move, which is pretty close to being connected. For instance, if white plays here, black's going to press like this. And this is reinforcing the connection to the right side. For instance, if white plays here, this would be a knight's connection, which captures that white stone. Or if white pushes through and cuts here, black would just push all the way, and this white group would not be able to escape. So everything is connected. Or even after playing here, black needs to put another stone in the center. So black played here. This gave black a potential eye, and of course it was very big as far as territory is concerned. But if black had played here in the center, this would be forcing, and then black would have the potential to connect up like this. It's pretty much connected. If white takes the upper side, then black has a nice position in the center of the board, and this is a slight advantage for black. So black plays the hanging connection, and white peeps and jumps out. Well, anyone would play this way, and it looks very dangerous for black. Black has half an eye on the upper side. Black saves. So it's like this. White is squeezing black on the upper side, and white plays here. So at this point, it looks like he's done for, basically. White has thickness here, and thickness here, and all of those white stones are fairly well connected up. There's just a little hole here, which white will have time to fill. And of course, white has a connected shape on this side. So all of this preparation that white did is coming to fruition. It's working. And black pushes through and jumps out. Playing this exchange lost black's final eye there. Black's potential eye on the upper side is gone now. So that's what this move was doing, when it would have been seemingly safer for white to connect here. When white plays this way, white is actually getting rid of this eye that black had. And this group on the upper side is actually okay for white. If black jumps here, of course, that would not work. That would be a connected shape. So black can cut it off by jumping here, but it's not going to kill the group. This is just going to be a seki. It's a living shape. So black is just trying to find a way out at this point, but with no eyes at all. This is difficult. I would have expected black to die. But managed to cut that white group in the center off. This is what black is doing here, cutting white off in the center. And now this is a forcing move, threatening to capture 3 stones. And black pushes through here. And now the white group is not alive. So this is the point of what black was doing. So white has one eye here, and a potential eye here. So that is not going to be 2 eyes. So black takes away the second eye. Now white has only this one eye. And if we look at the black group, it has no eyes at all. Black can make one eye in this area. Black can make one eye, but one eye is not good enough, right? But if we think of it as a race to capture, black does have a larger group with a lot of empty points next to it, so black has plenty of liberties. So if it turns into a semi between this white group in the center and the black group, then black is going to win. Unfortunately for black, this move pretty much solves all of white's problems. So white connects here, threatening to make an eye. Black connects. And white has saved the group. Because if black connects here, white will cut underneath. So that's going to be bad. Just like this. It's just, black is just dead. Or if black plays underneath, white can cut here, capturing those two stones. But it's not as if black didn't have a plan. Black is going to throw in here and put white in a shortage of liberties. So at this point, if we ignore all of the, well, if we ignore the ko at this point, this is the ko that they started fighting. If we ignore that ko, it's going to be difficult for white to save all those stones. So if we assume that white is not going to take the ko, white would fill somewhere here. And then black would play this move as an Atari, and this move as an Atari. And so if black can win the ko up to this point, then it's still a ko. This time it's going to be a ko at this point. White will still have the ko here. So black does still need a lot of ko threats in this fight also. But when black filled here, white starts playing the ko already. So for a while they're playing this ko. But it's not really that serious a ko for white, because even in this position where black has taken the ko, it doesn't capture the white group, because the white group has already surrounded these black stones. And provided white doesn't fill all the liberties, this cut here and this cut here, they're interchangeable. So black continues to answer. So the ko continues. And when white played here, black resigned. The meaning of this ko threat is to capture black here. And black can finish the ko by playing this move. But as I was saying, it's not a forcing move. For instance, white could play here. If black takes here, white will take here. That's going to be a double ko, in which black has to play ko threats, but white doesn't. If black connects here, in this case, white could afford to connect these points. And if black plays here, then white can kill these stones. And it turns out that these stones are dead, because if black plays here, white plays like this and can take away that eye. And this eye is only one eye, and this is a dead shape. So in all, it's not working for black. The white group in the corner is actually alive, because black has to connect here first, and then white can add a stone to the corner. So that's not in trouble either. So everything is being solved by this ko threat. So black resigned at this point. Black basically is in danger of losing this group on the right side, and has already lost a lot of points on the left side. So the attack in the center was a success for white. So this took Tang Weixing to the final. So I will try to follow those games. This was the interesting game of the semifinal, so I just showing you the one game. Thanks for watching, and I will be putting out more videos like this. I hope you enjoyed, and sign up to my channel. Like the video if you liked it. Thank you.